Like most guys, I've read a lot of stories about divorce and infidelity in my life. I read them to help myself cope with what I was going through at the time and to understand how someone very close to me felt when they were going through it. I always had my own opinions about how the guys in these stories felt about their wives and the guys they cheated with, and under no circumstances would anyone ever think that I could be a tosser or a wimp. It's just not in my character. I've always had very strong opinions about how I would act in that situation, but I never thought I would ever do it. One of the reasons is that most of us talk a lot of shit when we're not in that situation. But when you become the person it happens to yourself, everything you've been thinking, all your hardcore shit, flies out the window. When your heart is ripped out of your chest, not some fictional character's heart, things are different. Most of these stories start with a guy coming home early and finding an unfamiliar car in his driveway. In my case, I did come home early, but the car in my driveway was all too familiar to me. Unlike the guys written about in these stories, I realized within a half block that there was something strange about the neighborhood. I parked my car 3 houses down the block and waved to my retired neighbor, Benson Dubois, in front of whose house I parked. I walked down the block as quickly and quietly as I could. I opened my front door as quietly as I could. As soon as I entered the house, I heard the bed springs creak. My blood pressure must have jumped at least 50 points, but my brain was working clearly. I knew my wife was upstairs, and I knew who she was up there with. I'd known the bastard since we were toddlers, and we'd fought over Katie until I finally just married her to end the rivalry. On the one hand, the news that Katie was having fun with this bastard came as a shock to me. He and I had become good friends over the last 12 years since I'd married Kathy. There were a lot of guys I thought might stab me in the back at some point, but he wasn't one of them. I guess I just learned the definition of the word enemy. On the other hand, it gave me a chance to do something I've wanted to do for years, so I didn't go upstairs just yet. The man who did that with my soon-to-be ex-wife was Josh Patterson. We grew up 3 doors down from each other and had known each other all our lives. He always thought he was some kind of Superman. We disagreed with each other on everything and were always rivals, even from the days of PAL soccer and Major League Baseball. I loved action movies like every other red-blooded American male, and all the coolest women. He preferred French art movies. At least it seemed that way at first glance. He was an asshole from the start. On movie day at school, he would always suggest some foreign movie that none of us had ever heard of. It was one of his attempts to prove his superiority over the rest of us. When we watched one of the movies he suggested, he was usually the only one who didn't understand it. He also claimed that the version we watched was a remake, and the original was much better. He loved European sedans and pretended to be an art collector. I love old muscle cars and driving new muscle cars. I can admit that to you right now. I have an obsession with Mustangs. So, slipping silently out the door, I slipped into the kitchen, grabbed a screwdriver, a hammer, and a cup of sugar. I walked over to the BMW parked behind my Jeep. With a pleasure I couldn't have imagined, I plunged the screwdriver into the tires one by one. I smiled with pleasure as I heard the air rush out of the expensive rubber with a scream, protesting the violation of its structural integrity. No one should ever treat a fine specimen of autobilia like that. I looked around to make sure no one was watching. It seemed to me that there was someone behind the tree, but I couldn't be sure. I tried to open the gas tank door and found it locked. A screwdriver came to the rescue. I opened the door, removed the cap, and peed in the gas tank. Then I poured all the sugar in there. I threw the hammer on the ground. I decided I would come back for it later. I snuck back into the house and quickly but silently climbed the stairs. As I walked up the carpeted walkway, I could hear Josh grumbling and Katie whimpering. "You're doing it wrong," she whined. "If you're so picky about what you want, have Brian cook you whatever you want when you get home. That should be his job, and this is just entertainment. I think I'll pick someone else next time. I still don't understand why you want to do this. You're supposed to be his friend," she snorted. "Brian and I have always been rivals in everything," he wheezed. "That bastard stole you from me," he wheezed. "You were always my woman. He cheated and ripped you from my arms. We may have been friends outwardly, but I've been waiting for the right time to get my revenge on that bastard, and now I've waited. I feel really good. I feel very strong. I'm the king of the jungle. I feel like a lion that just pounced on its defenseless prey." "But you're more like a fly that just bounced off stinky shit," I said loud enough for them to hear. I hid behind the door, shooting video and taking pictures on my iPhone. I intended to use the high-resolution video and audio as evidence in the divorce case. Unfortunately, Kathy had not said anything objectionable that I could use against her. But it didn't matter. I had everything I needed. I carefully put the phone away and started to move towards the bed. I immediately realized that something strange was going on. I heard a mixture of screams and soothing voices coming from the bed. Josh was screaming like a girl, and Katie was trying to calm me down. It really should have been the other way around. Oh no, it's her fault. That evil bitch. She made me do it. She came after me. I'm a weak man, Brian. I succumbed to my sins, yelled Josh, who towered over me and weighed at least 50 pounds at 225 tall. Brian, calm down, Katie said. Honey, it's not what you think. If I wanted to cheat on you, I'd pick something better than this. I'm calm, I said, and punched Josh. He tried to hide under the covers next to Katie. He fell off the bed onto his other side and started trying to get to his feet, backing away from me. Josh, use your karate, Katie yelled as I loomed over him. Really, Katie? I said. We were both forced to watch Josh take karate classes at the local YMCA. Josh jumped up into a stance, clenching his fists and putting one foot behind the other like they do in karate class. His face took on a serious expression. Horse stance now, I shouted, just like his instructor did in class, and Josh, laughing, moved into a horse stance. The horse stance is ridiculous. You spread both legs really far apart like you're riding a horse. Josh helped me a lot. He did a little jump and heeled down slightly in the horse stance. Imagine a person weighing 225 pounds being pulled down by gravity. This man hits with force the rapidly rising leg of a man weighing 170 pounds who has put all his strength into the impact. How many factors do we have here? Mass, velocity, gravity, impact, and force. If you do the math, screw the math, that must have been a good punch. Not being a karateka, I can't judge punches and their power. But it was solid and elicited the desired reaction from my opponent. Josh, I shouted to get his attention. He was still lying on his side. You're right, Josh, I said. You're a better man. You took my woman away from me. I can't live with that shame, so take that bitch with you. Get out of my house now. He looked at me in confusion. What are you talking about, Brian? She asked. It doesn't have to be this way. We need to talk about this. You and Josh can talk about anything, I said calmly. But the only thing that has to go is you. But, she began. Her eyes quickly filled with tears and her lips bulged. Katie is an attractive enough woman, until she starts crying. I think that's one of the reasons why, throughout our 12-year marriage, I've been consistently inferior to her. She's ugly as hell when she cries. That was great, I shouted. You sounded just like a motorboat. Brian, look at Josh, she said. I've seen that fat bastard too many times already, I said. But I turned around to see what she was talking about. Josh was lying on the floor, turning blue. I ran over to him and started squeezing his chest. Move over, she said. I weigh more than you. I can do better compressions. And you breathe for him. Screw you, whore, I hissed. While Katie puffed away, I had an idea. Meanwhile, I called 911 on my iPhone. When the ambulance arrived, Josh had regained consciousness. Katie made him comfortable. I had a date with a hammer. I went back outside and smashed all the glass and plastic on this piece of Euro junk in my driveway. I stopped only to direct the paramedics into the house and show them where Josh was lying. Holy shit, he's just a whale, one of the paramedics said. Why do these fat bastards always fall on top of each other? His partner said. Shit, he's already fallen over. Let's just roll his fat ass down the stairs, the first guy repeated. Then they looked at me as if they didn't realize I could hear them. Just kidding, sir, the first guy repeated, mouthing the words over, and then smirked when he noticed I was paying attention to their conversation. Oh shit, my back, the second guy said, lifting the board with Josh on it. Once the medics got Josh to the second floor, they turned to us. Are any of you going to ride with him to the hospital? They asked. She'll meet you there, I said. And I'll call his wife. They put Josh in the ambulance, and with a howl of sirens, they sped away. Katie looked at me timidly. Get dressed and go to the hospital. Your lover may need you, I said. Brian, we need to talk about, she began. Get your ass to the damn hospital or wherever you're going, I hissed. After you're done checking on Josh, go see one of your friends. Don't come back here tonight, Katie. I don't want to see or hear from you. I mean it. She got in her car and drove off following the ambulance. I went back outside with thoughts of annihilation. When I got outside, disappointment awaited me. There was almost nothing left of the car. Benson and a few of my other neighbors were wielding sledgehammers. I always hated that bastard, Benson smirked, bestowing a smirk on me. I can't believe he has the nerve to snoop around your house while you're not home. His ass was carried out of here on a stretcher. Did he see either of you? I asked. Yeah, but what was he going to do? Clayton Endicott, another septuagenarian retiree, asked. Was he going to get off the stretcher and get his ass kicked again? I just shrugged and went back inside. I called a locksmith and he came right away and changed all the locks on my doors. I reprogrammed the garage remote and put the car back in the garage. I made myself a sandwich and started looking at online ads to find myself a good lawyer. How pissed off I was when I discovered that it wasn't as simple as the damn stories told. I was reminded of an Adam commercial I heard on the radio. It was a group specializing in divorce for men. Yeah, I hissed with an evil glint in my eyes. I was going to call Adam. I knew that, united by the spirit of brotherhood and male camaraderie, I would find solace in Adam. After all, they were men and could understand that. I quickly realized the truth when a woman picked up the phone. Then the bitch kept me waiting. I think I ate twice before she picked up the phone again. Yes, Adam is the divorce association for men, just like their ads say. Rich men. There was no way I could afford it. After listening to what this guy was saying, I felt like I was going to get screwed 3 times. Once by Katie and Josh, a second time by the court system, and a third time by Adam. I quickly hung up the phone. Besides, the guy I was on the phone with had already given me enough information for me to realize that no matter what I did, the cheapest way out would be to return Kathy's cheating. Any other option would cost me more than this cheating whore was worth. I sat down on the couch and began to think through my options. Realizing that Kat wasn't there, I put my feet up on her favorite couch. Then I kicked one of her pillows to the floor. Before I could think of anything, I fell asleep. When I woke up, I looked at the clock and realized I had slept for almost an hour. It was almost 6 in the evening. I ran upstairs, changed into my running clothes, and headed to the park for a run. When I got to the park, I noticed that one of the older guys, who always ran around the same time I did, was at the park. I waved at him like I always do, and he waved back, but he looked sad. And come to think of it, I hadn't seen him in the park in over a week. As I ran, I thought about the divorce. Kathy should have realized I wasn't the right person to start this shit. She knew my history and my family's history. I guess she just couldn't resist Josh. Maybe after all these years, she still couldn't get over him. Maybe this was her way of having her cake and eating it too. And I couldn't believe Josh was capable of doing such a thing. Not that he was a great friend of mine. We became friends because we were the last ones left alive. Everyone else we grew up with had moved away. The reason I thought it was stupid was because Josh was married too. And his wife was hot. Josh was married to Pearl Christian. I don't know how he talked her into marrying him, but this woman was what dreams are made of. She was slender, blonde, beautiful, and the sweetest woman in the world. Why he cheated on her with my pear-shaped fool of a wife is beyond me. But then I remembered reading an article that said most people always cheat in a downward spiral. Josh had cheated with a woman who was nowhere near as attractive as his wife. If the article was true, then I was better than Josh. As I finished my run, I started looking around. I looked behind the trees, I looked at the benches. I remembered that in one of the stories, a couple started by having fun in the bushes in the park. I dove into the bushes trying to find her, but couldn't find a damn thing. How pissed I was at all the other internet writers. There were thorns and thistles in my hair and socks as I climbed out of the bushes with a grimace on my face. What were you looking for? Another runner asked. You remember him. It was the guy I said I'd never talk to. He had picked one of the most awkward moments of his life to strike up a conversation with me. Upon closer inspection, he appeared to bear little resemblance to a runner. Up close, he looked older and, frankly, crazier. I didn't feel like telling him that I was looking for my imaginary perfect woman that I'd been promised by writers on the internet, so I held out my keys. You look a little out of place, he said. Even when you were running, you looked different. You didn't look as focused and happy as you usually do. Trust me, I know what it feels like. Oh shit, I thought. This is it. Please, kid, don't tell me about your problems or your goddamn life story. But he did tell. He talked endlessly about his youth spent on the mighty Mississippi and 1,000 other useless things and trivia. Finally, he told me that his only son, who was about my age, had recently died of a sudden brain aneurysm, which was probably genetic because such cases ran in his family. When I was already hoping that this was his case, he surprised me. He actually asked me about my problems. There must be something in all this stranger's kindness because I just spilled my heart out to him. And unlike what I did to him, he actually listened to my lamentations about Kathy, what she did, and how unfair the divorce laws are. I even told him that ever since I decided that I didn't know Adam and I had seriously considered just disappearing. After that, he just smiled at me and said, "I'll see you tomorrow." As I headed back to the car, I actually felt better. Once back at the car, I started my usual post-run rituals. I had a towel I kept in my trunk and I wiped off any traces of sweat twice. Then, I put on my warm-up suit. I wasn't cold, I just wanted to make sure I didn't ruin the leather interior of the car with my odors or fluids. As I opened the door, I noticed my iPhone was ringing. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered just for fun. "Brian, it's Pearl," she began. Even her voice made me think of clouds, roses, twin screw blowers, and other wonderful things. "We need to talk," she continued. "Can you come and bail me out of jail?" "Pearl, I can't imagine you in jail," I said. "What have you done?" "Oh, I had a big fight at the hospital with your whore wife," she said. "It started with me trying to figure out why my pig husband ended up in the emergency room with 2 broken ribs and a nose. They also gave me your address. That's when things got interesting. I walked into the emergency room and heard my husband talking to the nursing staff. He was asking for painkillers. I thought he had some kind of accident at work. As soon as I approached him and asked him what happened, he started telling me that he had been given something and it made him want to sleep. He immediately fell asleep. The nurse standing next to him told me that she had not given him anything. I realized something funny was going on. I'm talking about funny nonsense, not funny. Said that. Then your slut came up to me and started telling me how sorry she was and how she would make it up to you. But her priority was to talk to you. I asked her what the hell she was talking about and she tried to brush me off. She acted like she had already said too much already. Then I asked her why Josh was at your house and what happened, and it all made sense. You must have caught them doing something, didn't you? She asked. Anyway, she tried to just brush me off and go to Josh's house. She told him not to talk to you until she got this whole thing sorted out. She told him not to talk to anyone, because she'd sorted out. The bastard actually opened his eyes and nodded at her. As soon as he saw me coming, he started pretending to be asleep again. That's when I grabbed her shoulder to get her out of the way and she tried to swing at me. I grabbed her by the hair and launched her across the room. Unfortunately, she knocked one of the nurses down and the guards separated us and called the police. The only person who can come and get me since Josh is in the hospital is you, and since you're the only person I need to talk to about this, could you come and get me? She asked in her girlish voice. I'll come right now, I said. I hung up the phone and started the car. Almost immediately after I disconnected, the phone rang again. I answered it right away. Brian, honey, I need you to come and get me. I'm in jail, Katie said. Screw you. I hope you rot, I said as I hung up the phone. I immediately went to the station and asked where Pearl was. He told me she was in the last cell on the right. I looked around the room. There were several cells around the edges of the room. In the center was a large desk where an angry guy sat reading a newspaper. There was also a telephone and an ATM machine. As I got closer to the cameras and was able to see the occupants through the screen that blocked their view of the area outside the cell block, Kathy stood up and started calling out to me. Brian, honey, she yelled at the top of her lungs. I knew you'd come for me. I just knew it. Just watch. We'll work everything out and we'll be even happier than before, and... Her words were cut short as I walked past her and continued on my way. I gestured to the guy behind the counter and he walked over. I'm here to rescue one of your puppies, I said. Be careful, he said. Not all of them are vaccinated. That bitch over there, for example, is a threat. Yes, I know, I said. She's my wife. I'm sorry, kid, he said. I didn't mean to. Don't worry about it, I told him. You're right. Said that. Well, you need $500 to let her go, he said. I'm not here for her ass. How much for the blonde? I asked. He looked at me curiously. Are you serious? He asked. I nodded. Well, Pearl can go with you for only $250, he told me. Why such a difference? I asked. They both started with disturbing the peace, he said. The arresting officers didn't press any additional charges against them because they were both emotionally distraught. Your wife, on the other hand, kept ranting and had to be restrained. She was just a pain in the ass. Better your ass than mine, I said. Can I spare a few minutes for Pearl? Sure, he said and led me to her cell. Thanks for coming, Brian, she said quietly. I'm curious. How are you going to get us both home without us tearing each other's hair out? Are you going to try to charm us and make us act like ladies until we settle? Or are you going to take our hands and force us to submit? Neither, I said. I'm only here to pick you up. I'm going to leave her ass in jail. The paperwork may take a while, but as far as I'm concerned, she's no longer my problem. First time, huh? She asked. Well, don't waste your money trying to bail me out. This card belongs to Josh. The PIN number is his birthday, 9676. Withdraw enough money so we can go out to dinner and talk about it. I did just that. I went to the ATM and withdrew $400. I bailed Pearl out. When I left the room and left Katie in her cell, the screaming was unbelievable. She looked like a scalded cat. Pearl and I had a nice dinner at Texas Roadhouse and talked about everything that had happened. It turned out that Josh had cheated on Pearl before. I listened to her tear-drenched account of how she had caught him, but both then and now was trapped. Their son idolized his father, and she just couldn't see hurting the boy for what his unreasonable father had done. Someday she would leave him, but not until their son was old enough to handle it. As I pulled into the driveway and approached the house, I was truly happy. I liked Pearl. She was a very special woman, and I was having a great time. I was humming a happy tune when something popped out of the darkness of the porch and scared the hell out of me. So did you have a good time with Pearl? Are we even now? Do you have any idea how long I've been sitting here? Katie shouted. My damn key doesn't work. I had to shit in my damn rose bushes. My ass is all scratched up. Do you know what it's like to have a sore ass all the time? I let that pass my ears. It was too easy. Why are you here? I asked calmly. We're going to talk about this like adults and then make up, she said. You really don't understand what's going on here, and you're doing it all wrong. She was talking some gibberish, so I walked past her and opened the door, but immediately shut it back because she was too close to me. I couldn't go inside without slamming the door shut with one of her body parts and going to jail on some trumped-up assault charge. Wait here, I said. It's going to rain tomorrow. I need to put my car in the garage. Everyone but you can let their car get wet, she said. Who belongs to who? Is the Mustang your car or do you own it? Do you know how stupid that is? Do you know how stupid it is to fall for the old, I have to put my car in the garage trick? I whispered under my breath. Using the remote control, I opened the garage door and started the car. I then closed the door behind me and entered the house through the adjoining door. Once inside the house, I turned on the television and started watching the news. Kathy started banging on the door and demanding to be let in. I turned off the light and got into bed. It took about 20 minutes before the police arrived. When they knocked on the door, I yelled out the window that I would be right down. I opened the door and stepped out onto the porch. Good evening, sir, the officer began. This woman claims you're not letting her in the house. We got a call that some crazy woman had broken into the house. What's going on here? That's my soon-to-be ex-wife, I replied, calmly, yawning as if I'd been woken up. I caught her cheating and kicked her out. I walked into the house and grabbed my phone. I showed him the video. What a couple of whales, he said. Then he realized one of the whales was Kathy. Excuse me, ma'am. Screw you, she snapped back. Not on a bet, he replied. Anyway, I continued, I kicked her out of the house until we get a divorce. The house is in my name only. I bought it before we were even engaged. Hold on a second. Don't let her in my house. I went to the office and got a copy of the mortgage and certificate of title. I brought them in and showed them to the officers. They nodded and told Kathy to leave. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. Anywhere but here, I replied caustically. Kathy, I'll pack up all your things and take them outside. You can pick them up tomorrow. I'll even leave them on the porch in case it rains. Unlike you, I have a job. So I'll start by leaving you a few boxes each day through the weekend. On Saturday, I'll move all your stuff out of the house. Brian, I don't want a divorce, she yelled. We need to sit down and discuss this like adults. Yeah, blah, 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 I said. Good night, officers. The next day, pulling up to my driveway after work, I was surprised to see my father waiting for me. "Hey son, can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, perplexed as to what the hell he wanted. I loved my father. He practically raised me all by himself. There wasn't much I could do for him. "What are your plans for tonight?" he asked. "I'm going to throw a couple weights and then go out for a run," I said. "Nothing much." "How about we talk for a while, and then you go out for a run?" he asked. "Sure," I said. I opened the door and he explained to me that Katie would be living with him and my mom. As soon as he said, "my mom," my stomach hurt. I knew my mom would side with Katie. They'd try to slip me some abstruse Oprah wisdom with a dash of girl power to make it seem like all this shit was my fault. He thought it would be nice if we all got together and talked about it. "No, Dad," I said. "I love you, but it's none of your business." "But son," he said, "I raised you to be better than you are now. When you were a child, "Oh, please don't give me any more stories about you teaching me right and wrong and living like the good book says," I whined. "You did all that yourself and look where it got you. Besides, this isn't about you and me talking. We both know it's a scheme to get me to talk to Katie about what she did. It's her way of convincing me that all this shit is my fault. I somehow got her to spread her legs in front of Josh, and we have to forgive each other and move on. By the time she's done, we'll all be sitting around the campfire singing and trying to make waves. To hell with her. I'm not buying it. Tell her I'll get a lawyer soon, and we'll sit down and talk when the papers are ready and she signs them." He nodded at me and walked back to his car. I loved my father, but I didn't respect him. Over the next few days, things progressed rapidly. I hired a lawyer, he prepared the divorce papers. Honestly, the guy I hired wasn't the best, he was the cheapest. He even downloaded the documents from the internet. I was fine with that. I didn't want to spend a quarter extra to get rid of this bitch. However, he did me one big favor. He went and met with Josh. He made Josh and I sign a non-prosecution agreement or some other legal bullshit. Basically, it meant that Josh wouldn't sue me or prosecute me for slapping his ass, and I wouldn't sue him for ruining my marriage. I'm sure Pearl had something to do with it. I found out later that she liked the new Josh. Actually, so did I. Katie got the papers when they were delivered to her by a bored student chewing gum. She didn't bother to sign them. Her lawyer immediately demanded a meeting to discuss my proposal. My lawyer told me it was some kind of ruse. He said that technically, they should have sent us a counteroffer, especially since my offer was more of a slap in the face. Basically, my offer was for Katie to just take her crap and leave. No alimony, no support, no nothing. I wasn't going to pay that whore a dime for cheating on me. My lawyer told me it was basically an insult. I told him that she had insulted me by cheating on me in my home with the creature formerly known as Josh. We gathered in Katie's attorney's office. As I looked around, I noticed that her attorney had beautiful things. Beautiful things are expensive, and you have to pay for them. She looked across the table and smiled at me. She was dressed smartly. Her hair was styled. She was wearing an outfit that I liked. It didn't make her ass look fat. The makeup had clearly been done professionally. "How the hell do you pay for all this?" I asked. "You don't have a job." Her lawyer got visibly nervous when I said that. "Your mom and dad loaned me some money," she said. "I figured we'd pay them back after we got back together." I immediately started laughing. "What's so funny, honey?" she asked. "We're here to talk about our divorce," I told her. "What makes you think we're going to get back together?" "I love you, silly," she said. "We're going to be just like your parents." If this were 5 years ago, the look I gave her would have been done by the wrestler known as The Rock. It would have been called the People's Eyebrow. Suddenly her lawyer, my lawyer, and I looked at each other. The expressions on our faces said the same thing. Bitches are crazy. "Should we go back to divorce?" my lawyer asked. "Sounds like a plan," said her boyfriend. "We've prepared a theoretical counterproposal that I'd like you to explore in case we can't somehow work things out between the two of you. But before we talk about ugly things like divorce and settlement agreements, may I offer you some counseling?" "I don't want to talk about any of those things," Katie whined. "You guys can figure it all out for yourselves. I'm just here to talk to my husband and try to explain what happened and why." I looked at the papers the lawyer handed her and started laughing. "What's so funny?" her attorney asked. "This agreement is based on recent decisions in cases like yours in this state. Remember the episode of Star Trek when Spock fell in love with that human woman? I feel like telling you what Kirk told him. He looked at me curiously. You're out of your mind, Vulcan, I said, mimicking Shatner's legendary speech. Nim. There's no way I'm giving that whore anything but air and opportunity, I said. What kind of opportunities? She asked. If you're talking about the possibility of staying married, I'll take it. So, actually, I was talking about the possibility of leaving me, I said. Brian, if you can't listen to reason, I'll take every damn dime you have, she said. If we go to court, neither of us will be happy. I'm not being unreasonable. All I want is to go back to what we had. You don't even know why this happened. You didn't even have the decency to explain it to me. If we go to court, your ass is going to end up in the grass. Are you threatening me? I asked. Take it any way you want, she said. Either you get everything you've always had, including me, or you don't get shit. I'll take everything. Screw you, Katie, I grinned. I stood up so quickly that the chair I was sitting in clattered to the floor behind me. I walked out of the office, leaving Kathy yelling for me to come back. I was much angrier than I realized. Ever since this farce had started, I'd been doing the same thing a lot of men did. I've tried my best to just keep moving. That's one of the things men do. We are instilled from an early age that we should never show weakness. Don't let them see you cry, son, our fathers always told us. We all knew that if we let our friends know we were feeling even the slightest emotion, they would pounce on us like wolves and eat us alive. And they will do it both with serious intentions and just in the form of barbs, which are born through years of friendship. So we learn to keep our emotions bottled up and keep things to ourselves. Hell, I loved Katie. I loved her so much I competed with Josh over her my whole damn life. But when I married her, the rivalry had to end. You can't live with someone, eat, write, sleep, and have fun with them for over 12 years without having some sort of emotional connection. You can't stay with someone for years and watch them change and grow without loving them. Even as Katie changed over the years, I still loved her. As her mind grew narrower and her ass grew wider, my love for her grew stronger. Although I tried to hold back, the pain of her betrayal grew stronger every day. Until that day, my goal was to just get over it, get a divorce and cut her out of my life so I could grieve and start my life over. But she wouldn't let me do that. She kept calling me, kept showing up, and it just kept getting worse and worse. I started to hate Kathy. Eventually, I got my revenge on Josh. I kicked his ass and changed his life forever. In a way, I made Pearl's life better because Josh wasn't cheating on her anymore. But Katie was supposed to be my wife. She was the one whose betrayal hurt the most, and all I did was try to stay away from her. My mind, my spirit, my honor demanded punishment for her as well. But I just couldn't bring myself to do anything. When I got home and went out for a run, my brain was still working on figuring out how to A, get her to sign the damn divorce papers, and B, agree to a settlement that didn't include giving her an unfair amount of my assets. Why the hell can't women who are divorced or divorcing work? For thousands of years, women have carried the torch claiming to be equal to men, right? So why the heck, when a couple divorces, do even working women need something from their husbands? As I pondered this and other questions, the kilometers melted away, and with them some of my tension. When I finished my run, I felt better. Most of my stress was gone, but the questions I was pondering still had no answers. The old man I always ran into in the park gestured for me to come over. I wasn't in the mood to listen to another installment of his life story, but I approached anyway. It's a dead zone in my DNA. I always have to talk to other runners and anyone else who drives a Mustang. It's like we're all one big family. He looked at me like he had found the answer to world peace. Remember what you said to me the other day? He asked. I nodded. Remember what you said about wanting to just disappear? He asked. Yeah, but that was a fantasy, I said. She'd still track me down as soon as I tried to get a job, unless I wanted to work on a moving farm or something where they'd pay me under the table. I have to admit, I'm too spoiled for that. That's why I went to college. I'm addicted to shit. There are things I need to make life worth living. Kathy wasn't one of them, but I need cable TV. I need my Mustang. I need Wi-Fi. I need a certain standard of living to be happy. I know it's silly, but that's me. But do you have to be you? He asked, smiling. I began to wonder if the aneurysm had cut the rubber band feeding his brain. Seeing the puzzled expression on my face, he held out his hand. He held out his social security card and his dead son's driver's license to me, and my breath caught. He also held out a folder to me, and my expression turned into a smile as I looked through it. I hugged the old man and thanked him fervently. Then I jumped into my car and rushed away. I had everything. I had a degree that wasn't that far off from the one I had actually gotten. I had a military background. I had complete school records. I even had a few outstanding loans that I could start paying off as soon as I found a new job. The old man had given me a new life, and I was going to give Katie hell along the way. Over the next few days, I began to live my life completely differently. Kathy and her lawyer would call for appointments, and I would laugh and hang up. I put my house on the market with the help of a real estate agent and asked for a quick sale. I started looking for another city to live in. I put Katie off for a week or so until my father came to see me. "Brian, Kathy is going crazy," he said. "Half the time she spends yelling at everyone and being a bitch and the rest of the time crying. She really loves you and wants to come back to you." "Dad, this is my life. I need you to stay out of it," I said. "So, Brian, don't try to turn this into a discussion about you disapproving of my choices," he told me. "Just talk to her. You've been married for 12 years. You owe her that much." "I don't owe her a damn thing, Dad," I snapped back. "What about what she owes me? What about her not having fun with other guys? Does she owe me that? If so, she and I are even." "Just think about it, son. Whatever you decide in the end, I know you'll make the best choice for yourself. But at least talk to her. Who knows, maybe it'll change your mind." "I'll talk to her father," I said. "Tell her to come over tonight after my run. But I won't talk to her because I owe her. The only thing you owe that whore is the amount you agreed on in advance. I'm talking to her because I owe you, Daddy." I thought about it for days, and although he never told me about it, I realized something in that moment. Seeing my father come in here, tail tucked to beg for something that meant nothing to him, I realized everything I needed to know. I love my father, but until I understood the meaning behind his actions, I didn't respect him. I think I understand him better now, and my respect has grown accordingly. In fact, it was what Pearl told me that convinced me that my father was a bigger man than I was. When I got home that day, I was very tense. I wasn't looking forward to the drama I was sure Katie would bring. I got a phone call and was surprised to find Pearl on the other end of the line. "Brian, can we come over?" she asked. "Make up your mind, we'll come," I said. "Brian, you know what I'm talking about," she said. "Josh and I are like we always have been. We're still married, just like you and Kathy. He has something he wants to tell you." "Okay," I said. "But just so you know, the only reason Kathy and I are still married is because she didn't sign the damn papers." There was silence in the phone for a second, and I realized what I'd done. For almost the entire time I'd known her, Pearl hadn't swore or used bad words. She stumbled a couple times during that problem with Josh, but that was understandable. "I'm sorry, Pearl," I said quietly. "We'll be done soon," she said. I started doing strength training, but I just didn't have the energy that day. I was almost glad when the doorbell rang and I had to answer it. Pearl was beautiful as always, but Josh had changed a lot. He seemed to have gained at least 10 or 12 pounds in the last few weeks, and he looked different. He seemed to have become much more timid. "Brian, I wanted to apologize for everything," he said. "I guess I overreacted," I said. "No, you didn't overreact," he said. "Under the circumstances, I probably would have done the same thing. But that's not what I was apologizing for. I was apologizing for everything. I've never been a good friend since we met when we were kids, and I wish I could erase all that and start over." He held out his hand for me to shake. I was shocked. I shook his hand and I almost threw up. His hand was sticky and soft. It was a horrible dead fish handshake. I expected Josh to try to break my damn fingers like he always did, but this was clearly a different Josh. "Brian, don't be too quick to repeat that with Katie," he said as they got ready to leave. "I wasn't a very good husband either. I've had a few STDs and Kathy may have them too. But I want you to know one thing. It wasn't just me this time. Katie came after me. She seemed desperate to have an affair with someone. She chose me because we knew each other and felt comfortable with each other. If it wasn't me, it would have been someone else. And luckily you caught us the first time. There must be something that drives her." He shrugged, and they left. Pearl lingered for a few minutes. "Well, Brian," she said, "all's well that ends well, and I owe it all to you." She smiled at me, but there was something going on behind those beautiful eyes. They left, and I was still puzzled as I headed out for a run. I had a great run. But I didn't see the old man. I wondered where he had gone, but didn't dwell on it. On the way home, the call I had been waiting for came. My realtor had a firm offer on the house. I told her to take it and settle the details as soon as possible. When I pulled up to the house, Kathy was already waiting for me. She was dressed up again and had a new hairstyle. She was wearing a skirt that would have looked attractive on a slimmer woman, but it just looked cheap on her. I started laughing. "What's so funny, honey?" she asked. Then she noticed where I was looking. "See anything you like?" she asked coquettishly. "If you try really hard, you might be able to convince me that we should talk in bed. It's been a long time for both of us, and there's no reason we can't take the edge off until we get this sorted out." I laughed even harder. "Katie, you came here to talk," I said. "Your inability to keep your legs closed is the reason we ended up here. Ever since I caught you and Josh, you've been saying you owe me an explanation. This is your chance to give me the kind of explanation that makes it all make sense. I'm waiting for an amazing revelation, because there's no way in the world I can understand why you did what you did. Katie, our life wasn't perfect, but it was good. I loved you more than you could ever imagine. So let's hear why you ruined us." For a while, she just stared at me. Then a single tear rolled down her cheek. "Brian, I love you too. And like you said, our life has been good. We fought and everything, but it was a good life. I just wanted it to be better. For a while, I've been watching other couples, one in particular. Some of them didn't have relationships as good as ours. But there's one couple that I'm very jealous of. They go everywhere together. They do everything together. If she gets her hair done, he goes to the beauty parlor with her. He takes her with him when he gets his hair cut. At his poker nights, she is the hostess. It's so romantic I could just die. You can picture them together forever." "That's exactly how I wanted us to be, Brian," she said. "Who the hell are these weirdos?" I asked. "They're the same weirdos who raised you, Brian," she replied. I started laughing at the top of my lungs. She just stared at me. "I want us to have a marriage like your parents had. I asked your mom for advice. I thought that maybe they had something we'd lost. But after talking to her, I realized that we are stronger than they are. Your mom told me that she used to feel the same way I did. She thought they weren't going anywhere, and she was just bored. She made a mistake. She fell for some slick con man and ended up having an affair with him. Your father found out and they had a very difficult time, but eventually they got back together because they loved each other so much. And even now, years later, they are still stronger. I think that maybe before her cheating, they were both in a state where they took each other for granted. But they realized they loved each other too much for that, and now they live each day as if it were their last." She looked at me longingly, and a glint appeared in her eyes. Unable to hold back any longer, I fell to the floor and laughed. When I looked up at her, she was still sitting there with a silly expression on her face. "Is it really that funny?" she asked. Laughing some more, I wiped the tears from my eyes and sat back in my chair. "Okay, you've made your point. Can I get my divorce now?" I asked cheerfully. "Brian, you're talking nonsense," she said. "Why do you still want a divorce? Can't you see that this was all about making us a better couple?" "Kathy, we've been married for 12 damn years," I began. "Have you ever seen or heard me? Even talked to my mother?" "Well, no," she said. "On the other hand, you love your father. But you have a strange relationship with him, too." "Hey, that's because my father screwed it up," I snapped back. "My mother cheated on him. She told you the Disney version of what was going on. My dad busted his ass every day while she sat on her ass watching shows and eating bonbons. I was in school most of the time, so that bitch had nothing to do. That's why she was bored. When my dad found out about it, they didn't have a problem. He kicked her cheating ass out and she tearfully went back to him. Her affair had been going on for months when he found out. When her father kicked her out, she realized she couldn't survive on her own. Her lover didn't want her. It's a simple rule, just like with you and Josh. Why have a cow when you can have milk? Josh is married to a woman who is prettier and nicer than you, Katie. He never thought about you. He wanted to prove he was better than me. He wanted to prove that he could take something away from me. And he did. Unfortunately for him, it changed his damn life." I looked at her, and she recoiled from me. "My father follows my mother wherever she goes, just like you said, Kat. But it's not because they love each other so much. It's because he doesn't trust that bitch any further than he can leave her. And with his arthritis, he can't even lift her. Even after all these years, he doesn't trust her enough to let her out of his sight. I don't intend to live like that. I will never forgive my mother for what she did to our family, Kat. That's why I don't talk to her or invite her to visit when we get together as a family. I give my dad gifts for Christmas and his birthday and just ignore my mom. The reason my relationship with my dad has been so strange over the years is because I love him, but I don't respect him. Deep down, I always thought he was a wimp or better yet, a cuckold for letting that bitch back into our lives. I've been thinking about this a lot lately and realized that I had misjudged my father. I respect him, and I really wish I hadn't done it all these years. She was still looking at me in shock. So what made you change your opinion of your father? She asked. I was just thinking about it and realized there was a difference between Dad's situation and mine, I said. You mean your mom cheated many times and I only cheated once? She smiled. No, Kat, I said. My mom admitted that the guy she cheated with was really slick. He kind of tricked her and she just went along with it. It may have given her a thrill, but she wasn't originally looking for that. You, on the other hand, were looking for Josh. So you're an even bigger slut than my mom. And you know how I feel about her. The difference between my dad and me is me. What? She said. I don't understand. I could easily drop your cheating and get a divorce because I only have myself to think about. My father hated my mom as much as I hate you. But he had a child to take care of. There weren't daycare centers everywhere back then. He had to do everything he could to make sure I was safe and taken care of. So he spared no expense and took her back. He did it for me. She looked stunned. You know me, Katie. You know how much I value loyalty and trust. And now you know why. I feel so sorry for my father. He's been chained for so long to a woman he no longer trusts, just for me. But they love each other, Katie murmured. And I love you, Kathy, I said. I don't like you right now. I hate what you did to us. But I'm never going to trust you again. And I'm not going to live the way my father lives. Following you around and watching everything you do is like being in jail. A divorce would be better for both of us. Brian, I'll do anything you ask. It will never happen again, she said quickly. I was wrong about you. Your mother didn't tell me the whole story. Don't try to blame it on brainless Betty, I said. You had a choice. You just made a mistake. I really think you saw an opportunity to relive the fun you had with Josh back in the old days, and you took it. You just used the crap my mom spouted as an excuse. So can we both move on with the divorce and our lives? No, Brian, she snapped back. If we divorce, I'll take every last dime from you. You'll be much better off if I stay with you. You'll keep all your stuff. All you have to do is forgive me this time. I swear I'd be the best wife for any man. You should have left while you were behind, I said. I'll see you in court. You can come and pick up the rest of your stuff on Saturday. No, Brian, she smiled. I know you own the house. You bought it before we were even engaged. But it's been my primary residence for the last 12 years. That means that if I get a restraining order, I can live here until the court decides our divorce. So you'll have a roommate, honey. My lawyer thinks he can get a restraining order by Saturday. Only 4 more days to go. I'll see you soon, honey. And Brian, I won't be wearing a lot of clothes around the house, so I'm sure you'll give in and we'll be sleeping together soon. I bet you won't last longer than Wednesday. Katie, Josh told me personally that he has a couple of STDs. There's no way I'm entertaining you again. Good night. You really should have accepted my settlement offer. I got up, walked into the house, and left her sitting on the porch with her mouth open with shock. The next day, I went to work and told my boss that due to a family emergency I had to quit, and this day would be my last. I rented a U-Haul truck and loaded everything I owned into it. I drove it to my new apartment in a town 400 miles south of us. I returned the truck to the U-Haul and rented a trailer for the car. 2 days later, I hitched the trailer to my Jeep and hauled my Mustang to my new apartment. I drove back, and on Thursday I went into work and picked up my last check. I also got a check for the sale of the house. I deposited both checks into a new bank account in my new name. I silently thanked the crazy old man one more time and then left to start my new life. I kept in touch with my father. I used a cheap phone I bought with cash at a gas station. Dad was the only person I called on that phone. I changed the number to an iPhone. When I called Dad that first week, he told me how angry Kathy was that I had sold the house and moved. When she pulled up to the house and found all her stuff standing on the curb waiting for trash pickup, she freaked out and jumped out the door. The new owners, a retired 70-year-old couple, explained to her that they had just bought the house and had just moved in. There was nothing Kathy could do about it. The sale was perfectly legal. Besides, I had completely emptied our accounts. Katie was broke. She didn't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw herself out of. Dad spent an hour laughing and telling me about all her threats and the names she called me. The more we talked, the more obvious it became that Dad was proud of me for what I had done. I was lucky enough to do something he could never do. Over the next few weeks, I called my dad often. After a while, I began to sense some tension in him. I asked him what was going on. "Son, Kathy and your mother are going crazy. Your mom keeps filling the girl's head with nonsense. And Katie apparently doesn't have a very strong psyche because she believes it. She thinks you broke her heart. They made me pay for a private investigator to try and find you. So far, he hasn't found a damn thing. You've done a good job of covering your tail. You must have new credit cards and everything because they couldn't find a single trace of you. Hell, after reading the reports, and they're very detailed, I almost believed you just ceased to exist too." "Okay, Dad," I said. "I tried twice to be nice to that bitch. I tried to get a fair and legal divorce from her, but she wanted to play games. Then I tried to just go my own way and let her have her way. But I can see that Kathy and Mom are putting a lot of pressure on you, both emotionally and financially. So I'm going to take her ass off the table. You're going to have to deal with Mom on your own. It's going to take me a few days to deal with her. Can you hold out that long?" He said he could, and I started planning. In the month or so that I've been here, I've made a few friends. Some of them were very good friends, especially Jeff Weathers. Jeff drove a Mustang GT of the same generation as me and installed many of the same parts on it as I did. Jeff talked me into joining the local chapter of the Mustang Club of America. I didn't really want to join, but they turned out to be great people and we found a lot of common ground. Jeff was a bachelor, loved traveling and women. It wasn't hard to convince Jeff to lend me his apartment. After living there for a month, I had to give up the apartment and buy a house in the country. Apartment living wasn't for me. I needed the spaciousness of a house. I built a deck and landscaped the backyard. Also, no matter what city you live in, crime is a part of life. When I lived in an apartment, I had to park my Mustang either on the street or in the parking lot behind the house. In both cases, my baby was at the mercy of the elements and the criminal element. Once I bought a house, I felt much better. My car felt better about having her own garage again, or at least I felt better for her. Like I said, getting Jeff to lend me his apartment wasn't hard, but getting him to swap cars with me for a week wasn't easy. I had to promise that he would throw several parties at my house over the course of the year. I also had to agree to let him put his Mustang in the second spot in my two-car garage for the upcoming winter. My Jeep was going to stay outside, but heck, that's what Jeeps are made for. Once all the details of my plan were worked out, all I had to do was catch a fish on a line. Unlike most fish, women are cunning and suspicious. I had to make her work for me. If I just gave her information, Katie and my mom would surely smell a trap. I had to give the impression that they had outsmarted me. So I called my dad at a time when I knew he would be sitting at the dinner table with my mom and Kathy. We had rehearsed his lines beforehand. It was great to listen to him say them over the phone. "Yeah," he said. "I can do that. Where is it?" "Oh, it's still in the old garage. Do you think they'll let me have it?" "Good, you've already called them." "Where?" "Wait, give me a pen and paper." "Okay, where do I send it?" "Wait, I'm writing it down." "You think I'm stupid or something?" "Yeah, I'll destroy the address as soon as I send the package." "You don't trust me? You're sending me your work address instead?" "It's still good as long as you can get your stuff." "Okay, bye." When he said bye, Dad hadn't hung up yet, and I could hear Katie and Mom questioning him over the still open phone line. "Who was that, honey?" Mom asked. "Just an acquaintance of mine," Dad replied. "He needs me to do something for him. I'll probably run out and do it after dinner. You're coming with me." "That was Brian, wasn't it?" Kathy snapped back. "I can't believe you spent all this time with him and didn't tell me." "Blood is thicker than mud," my father said. "You didn't tell me either," my mom snapped back. "And I'm his mother. He's my blood too." "He doesn't think of you as his mother since—" "Well, you know when," my father said. "Where is he?" Katie asked. "I just need to see him." If I could talk to him, I'm sure I could convince him to come back, and once we're back together, I'll get out of your house and stay out of your way." "No way," my father said. "Honey, then just tell me," my mom said. "That won't work," Dad said. "It can get really cold in the bedroom," Mom hinted. "Woman, you really need to think about what you're saying," Dad hissed. "We're in our 60s. It's always cold in our bedroom. If I need to get warm, I either turn up the heat or put another blanket on the bed. You need to think about the fact that winter is coming soon, and it's going to be damn cold outside too. Remember how it was the last time you were alone, and you're not exactly a spring chicken anymore." For the rest of the conversation, Mom didn't say a word. I laughed until I fell over. "I don't trust either of you," Dad said. He tore the paper he'd written the address on out of his notebook, rolled it up like we'd planned, and burned it with a lighter. "I'm not senile yet," he said. "I remember most of the address." After dinner, he and my mom drove to my old house. I had already called the new owners and asked them to give Dad a box of junk and pretend it was important. They realized that you have to joke around with the elderly sometimes. They ended up inviting my mom and dad over for coffee and had a good time. I found out later that my mom was really mad that my dad decided to hold off on sending it until the next day because she was hoping to get a copy of the address when she and my dad went to the FedEx store. But she didn't need it. I've told Dad before how sneaky Kathy is. You can't live with a woman for 12 years and not find out how conniving she can be. I made Daddy write very diligently, like he was angry. I was sure Katie would figure out the address, and according to Dad, when he and Mom got back, Katie was already packing. As I suspected, she did the old childhood trick of running her pencil back and forth across Dad's notebook until she had deduced the address from the traces left by his pen. She borrowed more money from Mom and left that night. Dad said she even kissed her and Mom goodbye before she left, ostensibly to visit a sick friend. She and Mom really thought they were the damn detectives. The funny thing was that she was trying so hard to orchestrate her own downfall. I told my new boss that I needed a few days off to take care of some family issues. He agreed, but said it would have to be done at the expense of my vacation. This was a blow, since I hadn't been at this job long enough to have accumulated much vacation time yet. But I decided it was worth it. The next day, I called my dad and found out that he had been listening to my mom and Kathy talk on the phone. Kathy had been driving all night and was going to wait for me outside the building she thought I worked in. I drove there in Jeff's Mustang and went inside. She parked her car next to Jeff's car and waited for me. Jeff's office was just one office in a huge building. There were stores, doctors' and lawyers' offices, and many other businesses, including a movie theater. Kathy had no idea what office or business I worked in, and in fact, I worked on the other side of town. I spent the first few hours of the morning shopping. Then I grabbed Jeff and his lovely secretary and took them out to lunch. Jeff and I pretended not to notice as Kathy followed us. We chatted loudly about what we'd been up to, including me bragging about leaving at 3 in the afternoon. "Do you have a hot date?" Jeff asked. "Maybe," I replied. "I won't know how hot until I bring her home." The face of Kathy, who was sitting in the booth behind us, was getting angrier by the second. I noticed that she was walking strangely as she entered the restaurant. I didn't immediately realize that she had been waiting outside the whole time and couldn't use the restroom. She had managed to relieve herself quickly in the ladies' room of the restaurant and was now angry at my, in her opinion, carefree lifestyle. Jeff and Annabelle called me Brian instead of Carl, my new name. When we left the restaurant, she followed us into the building, which led me to believe that she wanted to meet me alone, not my friends. I was sure she also wanted to follow me home. I could always find another job, but if I just tried to disappear, it would take me a long time to find another place to live. After lunch, I made sure I had Jeff's cell phone on speed dial. Then I headed to the movies to see the new Bourne Legacy movie. I felt like watching a spy drama to set the mood for the second half of the day. As soon as the movie was over, I walked back to the car. It was a few minutes after 3. As I walked through the parking lot, I waved to a few people and spoke to them like I knew them. Everything about me said that I had been here for a long time, and this was part of my daily life. I got into Jeff's Mustang and drove relatively slowly back to his apartment. What happened next was one of my favorite parts of the whole scenario. The day before, I had bought ice cream from a passing truck for the many kids playing in front of Jeff's house. When I got out of the truck, they all ran up to me. Several of them pointed me out to their moms, and I waved to them too. I was sure Katie was even more pissed off now because a couple of these young moms were hot. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her get out of the car and head toward me. I ducked into the building. I needed to act fast. I told the doorman to let Katie in. He remembered me since Jeff and I had talked to him before. He was helping us for two reasons. The first was that we were paying him $50. The second reason was that, being divorced himself, he was always willing to help a cheater, especially since he himself had been cheated out of a divorce. And I entered the elevator alone and went up to the 5th floor where Jeff lived. I was sure I was walking slowly enough that Kathy could see what floor the elevator stopped at. I waited at the elevator until the next one came. As soon as the doors opened, I exclaimed, "Okay, I'll see you later," to an imaginary person in the hallway. That way Kathy wouldn't think I was waiting for her. She would have heard the end of the conversation and assumed I had stopped to talk to someone in the neighborhood. I walked down the hallway and started fiddling with Jeff's keys to give her a chance to get closer. As soon as I opened the door, she burst into the apartment right behind me. "Hi, Brian," she said smugly. "Did you miss me?" "Katie?" I said in feigned shock. "How did you find me?" "It was fate," she said. "We're meant to be together." She walked around the living room, touching a few items but keeping her eyes on me. "Well, it's small for the two of us, but we'll make do with what we have until we get a bigger place. Besides, it's cozy here. It'll bring us closer together once we get used to it," she said. "What the hell are you talking about, crazy?" I asked. "We're not getting back together." "Yeah, Brian, we don't need to get back together. We're married," she hissed. "I tried to divorce you," I hissed. "PFA, I blocked that shit out," she said smugly. "That's why I left town," I replied. "Just because we're married doesn't mean we have to live together." "You just ran away from me," she said. "That's what leaving is." "Which again is grounds for divorce," I said. "I don't want a divorce, Brian," she said. "I want us to be together again, and now I've got that." "Look, Katie, we need to have a serious talk about all of this," I said in a very defeated tone. "I have a date tonight that I need to prepare for. She's a very nice woman, and I'd hate to disappoint her. I assume you'll be spying on me on this date as well?" "No, Brian," she replied. She had a funny look on her face. I think I had warned her that I had seen her watching me. I think she also knew that if she left the apartment, I would never let her back in. "I'll be waiting right here in our apartment," she said, smiling. "Don't bring that slut home. I'd hate to embarrass you in front of her. You have everything you need right here." "No thanks," I said. "I like being disease-free." "Whatever you say," she said. "Just get your ass back here so I can talk to you. We need to work things out. Our relationship is getting out of hand. And Brian, I've been watching you. If you want kids, we can have our own. I saw the way you acted with those kids in front of the building. I also saw how half their mothers looked at you as a candidate for fatherhood." I busied myself getting ready for my non-existent date. I gathered a few small items she had touched and put them in my pocket. Then I leaned over and kissed her cheek. She smiled, and I picked up a box that contained some trinkets. "Kathy, would you mind handing me my watch? My hands are busy," I said. She looked at the counter and picked up a large gold fake Rolex that Jeff used to impress rich women. "Wow, that's a cool watch," she said as she examined it. "Maybe we should get me a woman's watch to match it." "My hands are busy," I said. "So what do you want?" she asked. "A kiss goodbye," I said. "Uh-oh, I can do that," she said. "Come back soon." I closed the door and immediately dialed Jeff's number on my cell phone. Across town, Jeff had called 911 and was on his way home. I put on gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints and left Jeff Fox's watch on the front seat of Kathy's car, the key to which she had left with me. I put the rest of the small items she touched in the back seat and the entire box of trinkets in the trunk. Jeff was just pulling up as I was getting out of her car. We greeted each other, exchanged car keys, and paid the doorman for his part in the fun. Just as I was pulling out of the parking lot, police cars pulled up. I pulled off the road to let them pass, as any good citizen would do if official cars with sirens came nearby. I called home and spoke to my father. No further subterfuge was necessary, so I used my iPhone. "Hey, Dad," I said. "Her ass is grass, so I started the lawnmower." Mom got on the line. "Brian, is that you? Did Katie find you?" she asked. I hung up the phone. The next night I ate steak with Jeff while he told me what had happened. When I left, he called the police and reported that the robber was still there. The cops arrived with sirens blaring and went up to his apartment. When they found Kathy nestled on the couch, they were as shocked as he was. Katie swore it was her and her husband's apartment, and Jeff said it was his apartment and he had lived in it for over 4 years. Jeff also said he had never heard of or met anyone named Brian. The doorman, of course, proved Jeff right, as did the building manager. The doorman said he had seen Katie leave and come in several times during the day, and Katie swore he was lying. Jeff began asking about several items missing from his apartment. The police officers followed Katie to her car and found several items in it, including the watch Jeff had asked about. Jeff told them he had gone on vacation for a few days and was not there. The police officers told Jeff that there had been a recent increase in burglaries and robberies of people's out-of-town apartments. When Katie was arrested on suspicion of burglary and fingerprinted, they found her fingerprints on several of Jeff's belongings and took her to jail. Katie used her cell phone to call my mom. My dad refused to bail Katie out or provide her with an attorney, so she had to use a public defender. Katie told the police over and over again how she went into the apartment to be with her husband Brian. The police took down her information. She also told them that I worked in a large office building downtown and was friends with many of the employees. They checked and found no record of me working in any office or business in that building. In their opinion, the police had a pretty good case. They found her in an apartment that did not belong to her without the permission of the person living there. They found several items stolen from that apartment in her car, and her fingerprints were found on most of them. The situation was not going well for her. Katie refused to plead guilty, and a few weeks later the judge gave her 5 to 7 years for breaking and entering, trespassing, burglary, petty theft, and home invasion. It turned out we were lucky. This judge's house was broken into while he was on vacation, and he tried to break a leg in Katie's ass when it came to sentencing. Kathy was to serve her sentence in a women's prison near our hometown. Her lawyer had succeeded in getting that done. It meant that at least Mom would be able to visit her while she was in prison. It also meant that since my wife was a convicted felon, divorce was easy, and I was happy. Unable to resist the final blow, I went to visit her in prison as well. I tapped on the glass and the partition opened so we could see each other. "Hey, Kat, you look good in that orange jumpsuit," I said. "Screw you, Brian," she hissed. "When I get out of here—" "Katie," I said, interrupting her in the coldest voice I was capable of. "Shut up and get out before you get behind me. You cheated on me and ruined what was a good marriage. I tried twice to let you go, but you kept insisting. You deserved what you got. Next time you pull some crap with me, it's gonna be worse. When you get out of prison, you'll be in your 40s. You'll have enough vitality left to start over if you find someone willing to put up with your shit. On the other hand, if you want to screw with me, I'll have at least 5 years to plan on putting you behind bars for a much longer period of time." I walked away and left her there, looking at me through the glass and mulling over my words. Finally, my mood lifted, and I felt good again. I stopped by my dad's house to wish him well, and we talked on the porch for a while. "I still can't believe you went through that shit, son," he said, laughing. My mom came to the door and looked at me. "Hey, Bree," she started, but then changed her mind and walked back into the house. "You know, son, someday you're going to have to forgive her," my dad said. "And I think someday I'm going to have to let her off the leash and start trusting her too. We can't carry a grudge forever." I nodded. That was when I realized for the first time that I had a big life ahead of me too. It was time for me to start thinking about what I wanted to do in the future instead of dwelling on Kathy in the past. Kathy had messed up her own life. True, her mistakes were led to her mistakes by the lies my mother told her, but she always had a choice. Now I had a choice. And my choice was to spend the rest of my life looking for someone I could trust. Epilogue. I stepped off the porch and headed to my car to drive home. As soon as I got in the car, Pearl came out of my dad's living room with a box in her hands and asked where she should put it. I was puzzled. "Okay, you can put it in the trunk," she said. The box didn't fit in my trunk, so we had to shake all the stuff out of it and put it in the trunk individually. Pearl looked really good in her cut-off shorts and halter top. Her long, blonde hair was tied back in a ponytail. "Can I drop you somewhere, Pearl?" I asked. She just smiled at me and walked back into the house. When she came back, she had her son in her arms. He was asleep. She buckled him in the back seat and laid him down, covering him with a blanket. "Okay, we're ready," she said. "We can always come back for the rest of the stuff." She sat in the front passenger seat and stretched her long, sculpted legs out in front of her. From the porch, my dad greeted her and me with a thumbs up. "I like your dad," she said, waving at him. I noticed my mom step out onto the porch as I started the engine. She didn't wave at me. "I'm sorry, honey, but I don't really like your mom. I think she's crazy," Pearl said. That was enough for me. "So what's going on here, Pearl?" I asked. "When I was growing up, I always had a dream of a nice house, a husband, and 3 kids," she said. "I had a nice house, but you ruined it. I had a husband, but he wasn't a good husband, and you ruined that too. I also don't have 2 children. You ruined that too." She looked at me and smiled. I felt weak in my knees. "You ruined Josh when you caught him with your wife. He's changed a lot since then. But he's changed too much. He's gotten so quiet he doesn't even notice it. He doesn't have the slightest sexual desire. We went from me hating him because he cheated on me all the time to me hating him because he became totally anti-sexual. He started practicing his own religion and turned our house into his church. I couldn't stay there and raise my son in that environment. I didn't want him to go crazy. Besides, damn it, Brian, I have needs. I'm not a whore or anything, but I'm a grown woman." "I noticed," I said, interrupting her. She blushed when she saw me looking at her top. "Said, thanks for the compliment, but keep your eyes on the road," she said shyly. "Besides, you'll be able to see a lot more when we get home. Anyway, you took a risk too, giving me 2 kids, and that's a dream I'm not ready to give up. I just need to find the right guy and everything will sort itself out." I groaned so loud it could be heard over the engine. "Your father said he raised you to fulfill your responsibilities," she said. "So I figure you owe me a house, a husband, and 2 more children. Either that or you'll have to fill in for me until I get them. So I'm moving in with you. If everything works out, I expect we'll get married and you'll get me pregnant at least twice." She placed her hand on top of mine on the gear shift lever. She looked deeply into my eyes and flashed her huge eyes. "Do you think you can take it?" she asked. I nodded my head woodenly and thanked God that this wasn't reality. And I was in one of those internet fairy tales where an average Joe can get rid of his cheating wife and end up with the most beautiful woman in town. The real ending. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and watch for the next video.